this week's episode of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, Mume, Ikoma, and the rest of the crew from the train are going to have to battle against a giant evil black smoke creature, which is a combination of thousands of different Kabane. The action don't stop in Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. This is a series which is a big fat action sandwich, and you should be taking a bite right in. It happens to be doing it with a lot of style, too. I also really like the fact that they're building up Mume a little bit more in this episode. I mean, that's not to say she wasn't awesome in the previous episode. She kicked all sorts of ass. If there was an ass-kicking quota, she went way over the mark. But we're finally getting to learn a little bit more about her connection to her master, to her lord, and that's because there was this other new character who was introduced in this episode who actually came from this other station where all these people survived this big attack from a Kabane. This guy has a peg leg, an eye patch, and a really kick-ass sword and gun. And he actually even gets the drop on Mume in this episode, but apparently he's one of her accomplices, or he used to be an accomplice. He used to work directly under her master until he was cast aside. This scene is really good, and I especially love the parallel to it, where after meeting this guy and even getting into a small fight with him, which made Mume seem actually kind of weak, which was very strange, she actually went back onto the train and was trying to console these kids whose dog just died because it had a busted leg. And she was mentioning that it's better that he sort of died here instead of being casted aside. Very similar to her accomplice that she just met. Of course, what she said is incredibly upsetting to all of the people on the train, and they dismiss her, call her a Kabane, and she ends up leaving in a fit of rage. And this is what's going to be really important for this episode, because all of the higher-ups are going to need Mume's help as they make their way into this completely destroyed station so that they can actually activate this bridge and make a quick escape. The problem is, this place is just brimming with Kabane. They are all over the place, and they all seem to be hanging out in this massive boiler room. So they've decided that they're not going to go there. Except for Mume, who seems to disregard the orders of everyone, decides to jump headfirst into the lion's den and starts kicking all sorts of ass. This scene is really damn great right here because it really shows the strengths and the weaknesses of Mume. It shows that she is getting better every single episode, especially with her timing in killing Kabane. The problem is it's starting to put a real big toll on her body, and it seems like she's getting weaker in every single episode because she keeps overusing her abilities, not to mention she's underestimating the sheer number of the Kabane, which are just starting to get into the thousands at this point. It's just insane. So you have her fighting against all of these Kabane, which are slowly starting to, like, climb on top of each other and trying to reach everyone and attack, and then you have Ikoma and their group who are trying to fight against them, when suddenly at the end of the episode, after both Ikoma and Mume have to escape into this cave, this giant black smoke-like creature finally rises up, and all I can describe it is like this humanoid black figure with glowing red eyes, very similar to the Kabane. I don't know if this is a singular creature or if this is like a full composite of all of these Kabane coming together. All I know is I like it because almost every episode they're introducing something new about the Kabane. Before we had the Wazatori, who are sword-wielding Kabane. In this one we got to see those guys return. Even this one, which has some martial arts skills, which goes up against Mume in a really great action scene. And then it all ends with this giant kaiju beast, which looks absolutely horrifying, like a nightmare from your dreams. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress? I have a feeling in the next episode of the series we're finally going to get a deep connection between Ikoma and Mume, as they are going to be trapped underground and unable to help their friends. They're reluctantly going to have to use the best of their abilities to get back out there and fight against this giant creature, while all of the other human characters are going to do their best to defend against them. The good thing is they do have some new weapons, which are introduced in the beginning of this episode. Ikoma has actually taken the hearts of the Kabane and actually sort of fuse those with their weapons and even their swords, which will allow them to fight them on somewhat more even terms. Another thing about this episode that is interesting, and something that I always see in these type of post-apocalyptic series, is that the side characters are so fucking annoying. I hate them. They're always fighting amongst each other, despite the fact that they're living in this post-apocalyptic world, and the last people they should be fighting against are other humans. There's a scene at the beginning of these episodes with these two assholes fighting over food, and it's up to Mume to come in and start whipping that ass. Of course, this is the beginning of the discord with Mume as well, as she starts to sort of lose trust in both all of the people she's working with and vice versa. She wants to do everything on her own, and I think after this episode she's going to realize that that's really not something she can do anymore. But yeah, the best thing about this episode, at least in my humble opinion, is that final scene when you see that giant smoke monster just rising up in the air and everyone collectively shitting their pants and realizing, what the hell are we gonna do against that thing? It's also worth noting that this is another well-done animated episode with some great action sequences and some fantastic fast-paced music, which just really gets the blood pumping when you're watching it. This is just a super exciting anime series, which action anime fans should definitely check out, especially because there's twists and turns in just about every episode. Like an actual train itself, it's something of a long journey, but every single time you get a little bit closer, something new shows up, something that amazes you when you look out the window. This week, it's a giant black smoke monster of pure destruction, and I can't wait to see how they're going to deal with it. But we're going to have to wait until next week's episode. What I will say is this week's episode right here was pretty damn stellar, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress fans. You're gonna see something you like. But if any of you guys did watch this week's episode, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below? Did you have a favorite scene from this week's episode? Are you still attached to Mume? Is Ikoma your favorite character? And what's the deal with that giant black smoke monster? What the hell is that thing in the first place? Please tell me in the comments section below. You guys are so freaking kick-ass. Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. If you would like to help support the channel, maybe smash that like button. Maybe share this video with some friends. Maybe you could subscribe to the channel. That way you'll see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. Not to mention our weekly podcast show, and you should check out all of our cool links in the description box below as well. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.